Hey Void, how you doing? It's been a while since since I've watched this one, so I've been trying to figure out how to best review it because with how well received it is, it's met with universally high appeal, and approval. So it's just I didn't want to be on here just me singing the same praises everyone else sings for Batman the Animated Series. But well, I watched it and I gotta get around to reviewing it. So it's good. Obviously. Everyone knows the series works. And I've only seen, admittedly, before this sitting down and just gunning the whole thing over the past several weeks. Then I had only seen a handful of episodes here or there. But they always kind of stuck with me. I think the first one I saw was the Man Bat episode, which was something different for most cartoons at the time. That at first the whole werebat thing, when I was a really young kid, kind of got to me a little. So it was definitely doing something different. It was more of a serious cartoon than we were used to at the time. And well, that still definitely holds up. The animation, beautiful. Now, I should say that I'm covering with this the original Batman animated series. A chunk of it was also referred to as The Adventures of Batman and Robin, so that's going to be in this review. And the new Batman Adventures, which is effectively season 3, 4. Okay, this is where we're getting into my first complaint. The whole thing is chronologically confused out the ass. And that's not really the show's fault, but I imagine there's a lot of developmental problems in making a show so different. But even just watching it in order on the Blu-ray, the titles will change back and forth from Batman, the animated series, and the Adventures of Batman and Robin, with little rhyme or reason. So it becomes very apparent that the episodes were aired out of order from where they were shot. And any attempts to piece together the coherent order going between Wikipedia, various websites, IMDb, gives me conflicting answers, and that conflicts also with the orders that they're presented here. So, other than the third, this dubs it the third season. Some things will dub it the fourth season, which is the New Adventures of Batman, or the New Batman Adventures, technically, which is easiest to discern because it has an entirely different animation style. So, which leads to some issues with some continuity problems, particularly in the earlier seasons, as sometimes Robin's there, sometimes he's not, and there's little connectivity between a lot of the early things. Batgirl shows up, then she's gone for a while, then she's back. This is mostly through the first 2, possibly 3, depending on where you draw the line, seasons. I mean, they do keep a lot of the important plot beats, like if there's something important that's discussed, like the creation of Two-Face, that one's not out of order, but compared to any further appearances of Two-Face. But any other episodes that are more filler just can go anywhere, and they do. So, that is... I don't blame the show for that. But that also feeds into the one main kind of... The one thing I think would make this better. It is already very good, I don't mean to disparage the show. Which would be more of a coherent narrative overall. I mean, back when this was airing, which was mid-90s, actually 92 to 95 for the original run, and then the new Batman Adventures came out in 95. Or, no, sorry, 96. There's a kind of a year gap. And then, oh, actually, my mistake, 97. There was a 2-year gap, and then it took 2 years to air 24 episodes, so a little bit long run for that one. Anyway, at the time, a lot of Saturday morning cartoons, which is where this kind of originally aired, there was no overall plots. It was just one-shots. Maybe a 2-shot if you were doing a special, but that was a major era of TV where it was just random wackiness, typically with no overarching plot. This was kind of the first steps towards getting more kids shows with overarching plots. But while there are some things that do advance overall, there's no main narrative throughout any of it, which I think could have strengthened it, particularly with some more of the interactions between the characters that ran longer than just a 2-episode spread. But that's more of a nitpick than anything else. I guess let's see, the animation style, I already touched on a little bit. First season, love it. Well, keep saying first season. The first era of it, the Batman animated series slash New Adventures slash Adventures of Batman and Robin. Love the art style. It's very iconic. Love all of the designs. The only design I don't really care for in that would be Killer Croc, which, when he first showed up, I didn't recognize who he was supposed to be. I really couldn't tell. I mean, you get used to it after a while, but this weird gray-purple guy wasn't how I didn't picture Killer Croc. But it wasn't bad either. I mean, personality-wise, and his episodes worked, it's just the design really wasn't working for me. The new Batman Adventures was a little bit on the opposite end, where I usually preferred most of the original designs. Most. I mean, Joker, it was okay, but I did prefer the original one for it. Most of them, I really didn't care especially for. The Robin suit, I did like. And I think Batgirl was also fine in that. But, like, Catwoman looked just strange to me. I will say I like their design on Selina Kyle more than the original ones, but Catwoman herself was oddly angular, and just the complete black part of it just didn't really work for me, and the Scarecrow just looked too hulking. So it was more of a mixed bag on the second half, or New Batman Adventures, not even second half, last 24 episodes. I mean, otherwise, the overall art style was still very high. And the amount of originality that later became canon, Harley Quinn being the obvious ones, which I really liked how much they set up, and even went with, even from the get-go, having her not being making it clear that her relationship with the Joker was not a healthy one. So, like, the seeds were already there. And I like that. The music, very fitting, very thematic, very iconic. Love the music. There was no show, especially for kids, that was as darkly lit as this one, I should say. The whole mood of it was something different, and I liked it. That said, I can't give it really a perfect score, because a lot of it is of its time. But mostly that's just the animation stylings of the era, rather than the content. Content-wise, everything worked for me. It definitely helped. This is a solid Batman thing, and Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill really became staples of Batman and the Joker. It's hard to hear any other incarnation without thinking of their voices, which is probably why I like the Arkham series of games so well, because they have those voice actors. Well, I think Joker might have been replaced, but they got a very good double later on, and they did. But, like, I've been trying out the Harley Quinn series. It's fine, but it's just hard not hearing. You miss Mark Hamill. Batman hasn't shown up enough from what I've seen to really get an impression, but again, he's no Kevin Conroy. Which is a shame. But I know eventually we'd have to branch out a little bit there anyway. But on the MacGuffin scale, this it's very good. I'm going to give it 8 MacGuffins. Part of me wants to give it higher, but for me, there's just a few things I wish about it. Like, the coherent narrative is the main thing that I think would really add to it. And if it had that, I would give this one a 10. But, as is, it was good. I'll give it an 8. And I do highly recommend anyone who's into comic shows or books or movies to definitely give it a watch. If you haven't seen it yet, do yourself a favor. Sit down and watch it. Yeah, it's long. The first chunk of it runs 85 episodes, and then there's another 24. So, yeah, it is long. And there's a couple movies. I'll touch the movies individually since, well, it's better for, I think, to give them their own whole review, but otherwise, definitely recommend it. If you get a hold of it on Blu-ray, I definitely recommend it, especially since this does come with 2 movies as well, so it's a great collection. A little pricey, but for me it was well worth it. So, Batman Animated Series. Love it.